It was back in 1902 that the first Alliance missionaries arrived in the Philippines. Preaching the gospel in that land proved to be extremely difficult, and after 20 years, there were less than 500 baptized believers and very few churches.
The national office said, we believe the field should be closed down, and we want to put our resources elsewhere. Dr. Jaffrey was commissioned to go to the Philippines to determine whether the field should be closed because it was not growing, nothing was happening. And he went there, and what he saw was not what was happening. He saw what God could do. He wrote back to the national office and said, I believe that the Philippine field can be one of the largest fields of the Alliance, even though at that time they had about 3 churches and they were struggling. And he said, you're never going to grow unless you have a school to train pastors.
As a result, the Ebenezer Bible Institute was begun as a center for training Filipino Christian leaders. Miss Mabel Christensen, who had come to the islands in 1922, heard of the need and felt God's calling to the tribespeople.
When we step on this launch, be assured I am walking in the very steps which I feel Christ would take if he were here on the islands today.
A farewell for Miss Christensen and the other workers who were to accompany her was held at the Ebenezer Bible Institute. Miss Christensen's testimony in particular had a great impact on the students.
When Miss Christensen was killed on the boat, they brought her body back and they put her in the school chapel. 5 men gathered around that casket. They were just students. They gathered around that casket and dedicated themselves to take her place. All 5 of those men went out to pioneer new areas that had never been reached before. As the war heated up in the Asian theater, the Philippines felt they were safe. After all, the U.S. had large bases there, and so nobody felt that anything was going to happen. When they heard the planes flying over, and they went out to wave to our American flyers, only to discover they were Japanese. And that was the first they knew that Japan had taken over the Philippines. From that point, many of them tried to hide. The Filipino pastors and lay people took them up in the mountains to hide them, and some of them stayed there through the entire war. Others finally were captured by the Japanese and were taken to internment camps. When all the missionaries were either out of the country or interned, the great question was, what will happen to the church? When they came out of that situation, they discovered the church was doing very well. They did not stop functioning. They adapted to their situation. And so the obvious result of that was, let's organize the church and let them carry on. If you say, why did the church become as strong as they are, is because they were willing to sacrifice to do the work that God called them to do. The heart of these men in particular, as I worked with them, was the heart of not just winning the Philippines, but being a part of world missions. And they kept saying to me, we believe that if we are in step with the Holy Spirit, that He will bless us. And they sent some of their best workers to other countries. And it was very difficult to support those missionaries because of the poverty. The people didn't have a lot of money, but they gave what they had. And God blessed it.